For this spawn, I decided to go with a black Mamba half moon placat pair, and I chose this pair specifically because they show a strong trait of uh, dark bodies and minimal dragon scales. And so for the male in particular, I chose him because he had a pretty broad dorsal, although it's not to where I would want it. It is very broad and high, which I like, and it's proportioned well with the caudal as well, and so that was good. The one knock on this mill is that it kind of sort of has a spoon head, and so although it's not fully spoon head, it is there. It's very minor, but it's there. But nevertheless, I like the strong body and the features that it had, so I decided to go with it. The female displays very nice finnage as well, from her dorsal to her caudal and her anal. It's very nice, and I actually like her more than I do the male. And so she doesn't have spoonhead, and which is nice, which is good. I'm hoping that the offspring will inherit more of her traits than the males. She also has a nice black body with thick white scales as well. And so, although I like her a lot, she is quite aggressive towards the male. And so we'll see what happens when we put them together. So here's the pair introduced and put together in a tank. I didn't put the male or the female in first. I just decided to throw them both in there together at once. So as you can see in the tank here, um, they're showing aggression towards each other, which is fine, which is okay. Um, and as you guys can see here, the female's right here at the front. She is again very nice form-wise, and the male is doing a good job right here of just trying to tease her but not really bite her. And so they're basically just kind of flirting with each other here. In the backdrop, you can see that I have my sponge filter in there. I like to add a sponge filter right away. It's not on, it's just there for when the fry is born, so I can just kind of work with it right away. I also have a plant in there as well, live plants, and of course Indian almond leaves in there. And so as they're going around and flirting with each other here and there, um, the female's starting to get pretty aggressive, and the male, of course, has to go and strike her, and she strikes back as well. And this is not a good thing. So, anytime a female is too aggressive like that, I'm always worried about him because if the male is not aggressive enough or is not aggressive as um, the female won't give in, therefore, she won't spawn with him. And so the male has to continue to be aggressive. And if you're new to betas, this is natural. So this is a natural second nature to betas. Of course, they're very aggressive. And so this is nothing out of the ordinary. This is all natural for them. Eventually, if you can see to your left right there, I had to separate the female, put her back in the chimney because I didn't want her to get bitten too much by the male. Um, and she did eventually stop being super aggressive, and she eventually gave in to him, but he kept chasing her and biting her. And he, of course, went to town with his bubble nest, and so he made his bubble nest right under the Indian almond leaf, which is great here. And then about a day later, I released her, and they started spawning. And so um, it took them about probably about like 10 or 20 tries to try to wrap before they got this one going. And so as you can see, the male and the female, they wrap, and then the female goes into kind of a paralyzed position right there, all the while releasing her eggs. And the male goes and he collects the eggs and then puts them in the nest. And so this was actually quite a bit of eggs that were coming down, which is great. Overall, I believe there was probably close to like 100 to 200 eggs in there, maybe even more. um, but for the first time, they did a really good job here. And again, as you guys can see, the female right there, she is very, very, very torn up. The male really worked her well there, and that's what happens when a female is too aggressive. If the female is too aggressive, the male will really tear her up like that. If she's not as aggressive, she'll get a few nips here and there, but not as bad as the female right here. You guys can see her anal tail right there is all ripped, and in her body right there by her stomach, it's she got some damage done there as well. And so after they spawn, I'm definitely gonna medicate her up and put her kind of in rehab mode. Hopefully, she can recover from that in no time. So they continue spawning for about another 2 to 3 hours. It can take as long as maybe 6, 7 hours for betas to spawn or finish spawning. And so after they're done, the male usually chases the female off, and then the male goes and he takes care of the eggs on his own. And so if you can see there, the eggs are right there. They're kind of brown on this video, but as you can see on top of the bubble nest right there, there are some eggs at the top. And if you see this, this is actually not good for the eggs because they may get rotten because the male doesn't get to clean them, and or they won't hatch. So be aware of that. And eventually, after a few days, the eggs will hatch, and the fry will show up, and they'll be hanging up and down vertically. And then in a few days after that, they will be free swimming. And so that will be the next video.